On this episode, I'm talking to Dom from Social Saviour. Dom started her business in social media around about a year ago. So we take this in two different directions on the podcast. One side, we're looking at all the trials and tribulations of starting a business and how it goes over that first year. And then we're also digging into her knowledge about what you can do yourself on social media to help your business expand. Easy. Dom, Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Before we go any further, I always like to start off just by getting a bit of background on yourself, how you started your business, how you got into it in the first place, maybe where you feel like your business is at the moment, just so the listeners have got a good idea.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Dominique. My company is Social Saviour, which is a social media company that I started last year, exactly this time last year actually. So I'm still in the start-up phase of it, but so far it's been going really well. My company in general does social media management. I do content creation, content shoots, one-to-one consultations, and I'm now starting to do kind of like public speaking with it, which is kind of where it seems to be going at the moment.
Nice. So how did you end up getting into that in the first place?
So really I came from an estate agent background, which is completely kind of different, but with the estate agency side of things, there's a lot of marketing and I've been doing that for 10 years. And within that 10 years, social media has become such a big part of it. And even when you kind of apply for a job in a estate agency now, they're like, are you really good at social media? Because
help, please.
they're like, help. They're like, here's the logins on your first day. Because that's what it is like now. And I think the more that I did social media for estate agents, the more I realised how relevant it actually was. And how, we're taking all that kind of data and how we're feeding that back in and how you're taking clients on journeys rather than just kind of posting random bits, which is what I started as doing. So I realised there was so much of a need for it. And I was getting poached for jobs by other estate agents because of how good my social media was. They wanted me to come and work for them to do their social media. So I always knew that I wanted to run a business. I knew that's where it was going. I always thought I'd run an estate agent. That's what I thought I was going to do. But this is where it's led me.
Yeah, we never know. Maybe you will.
Yeah, maybe.
So, and then how did you start branching out into other industries? Because you don't just work on estate agents now, right?
No. So really, when I researched it, so it took me a really long time to actually launch my business. It took me, I'd say, 9 months before I actually said, right, I'm actually going to do it now.
Why? What was stopping you?
I think it's just scary to launch a business. It's like I spent ages doing logos and playing with ideas and names and putting notes on my phones, and then that's as far as it went. And then I just think about it while I'm driving, and I just couldn't bring it to life. I couldn't, like, if I launched it, everyone would know that I've launched a business, and that's the scariest part of starting a business. I think is actually just going. But when I was researching into it, I was researching where other social media managers saying you have to have a niche, you can't go outside of that niche. But I thought if you make a strategy that works well for customers, it works well for other industries. So, I mean, the minute I launched my business, I had 2 customers straight away, both very different industries. And the thing is, you just have to go with it. You have to, when you start a business from scratch, you just have to roll and see where it takes you. And all you can do is do a lot of research and make sure that you're going in that right direction. Yeah,
I've found a lot of the times with businesses that I've started that, and maybe you've experienced this, and maybe you haven't yet experienced it, but unfortunately, the first customers that you get you'll probably end up falling out with them in some way, because as you say in the beginning, you just need some customers. You just need food to eat, basically. Otherwise, you're gonna starve, right? Yeah. And then gradually, it sort of takes shape, and you start building the rules around what your company actually does. Yeah. And it's hard to go back and implement those rules with the first people.
Yeah, 100%. Oh gosh, that's such the journey that I've had. I learned a lot of the time with social media, it takes a good couple of months, like 3 or 4 months, to get your feet under, understand that customer's niche, their customers, when their customers are online, what you need to post for them, how you're going to convert it. But the thing is, when you start a business, you're just so happy to have customers that you don't do like your actual contract. You don't explain to the customer that I actually need 3 months before we start to see the progress. So a lot of the first customers I had them for a month or 2, and then they were like, well, thanks for posting some pictures, see you later.
Yeah, absolutely. But then that'll just continue to happen for years and years and years, and it just continues to evolve. So when you do get a customer, moving away a little bit, I guess this podcast will be interesting because there's sort of 2 angles to it. There's your experience with building your business so far, and then there's your experience with running social media for people. So I kind of want to dip between the 2. I don't know if it's the same with the companies that you work with, because I work in I work in the property industry, and so a lot of my customers are very similar. Although I have worked outside of that industry as well, and I guess it is true there as in different industries. What I find for a lot of people is that when it comes to something like social media or just marketing in general, they want someone to come in and fix it for them. But they haven't got any idea as to what their company actually does. Do you run into that problem often, or like when you're sort of asking people the questions that there's nothing coming back, and so it's like, I don't know, I can't just make everything up about your company. You've got to give me something.
100%. Yeah. I think when I started, again, just really happy to have customers, didn't have like an onboarding process. And then slowly I've started to implement an onboarding process. But then the first onboarding process was too long because I'm asking people about questions about their business that even they're not sure of. I'm talking about what their core values are in businesses, and a lot of people don't know what their values are. They know what their goals are, but they don't know what they're trying to show and what they want people that are viewing them to kind of know about them. So a lot of the time, I find that they don't even know. And I find with doing social media, sometimes for instance, I've got clients in the beauty industry. She was just happy at first for me to have, just posting general stuff, and then we kind of got into what she wanted, and she actually was hiring certain equipment that she pays for in the beauty salons, so she needs to get customers for that to make sure it covers the costs, and also she's making money on it. So we knew that we then had to be pushing these products to make sure that she was getting those booked in, and that means that there was value for her. Otherwise they don't know what the value is if they don't even know.
Absolutely, it's so true. I mean, like you say, if they don't know, how's anyone else supposed to? I guess we're in a world now where everybody knows they're supposed to be on social media. I mean, whether that's true or not, who knows, right? But that's the general rule of thumb, is that people are supposed to be on social media. But we're also in a world whereby I saw some survey the other day whereby they did this survey of university students in America, and 75% of them put themselves down as content creators. So we're in a world now whereby 75% of the young population believe they're content creators. Whether they are or not is another matter. But so you've got this sea of content, and millions of businesses on top of that also feel like I'm supposed to be putting content out there. How does somebody begin to get to the stage whereby their content is even worth the effort of creating it in the first place?
I think it's just knowing what your end goal of it is, because as you say, everyone thinks they're a content creator, but what is their actual end goal? So people actually having their kind of niche, knowing what their end goal is the most important thing. And as you say, like, I've gone into kind of restaurants and I've been speaking to people and saying, I could do your social media, and they're like, why? I'm on Google. They're like, I don't need the social media. But I think it's just actually understanding like what you're actually posting for. If you know you're posting to get more customers, then you're going to be posting the correct thing. If you know who your target audience is, you're going to know what time to post for them. So I have a client that has a baby clothing range, and we were posting at 6 o'clock because I was thinking that's the best time for adults to be online. But actually, they're actually like they're putting their babies in the bath at that time. They're getting them ready for bed, so that was the worst time. So it's just thinking of the bigger picture, and it's more about kind of knowing what your goal is and knowing kind of correct times and you know who your target audience is. That's quite a key.
When I talk to a lot of the people on this podcast, most of them are a bit further down the line with their business, and I think that a lot of them have either forgotten or they've on purpose forgot how hard it was to make sales in the very, very beginning. Because sometimes I dig in and I kind of try and I say to them, like, you know, what did you learn in the beginning? Like, where were you unrealistic with what you thought you could do? And I think a lot of them have forgotten. So because it's sort of fresh in your mind, you start the business, right? You're sitting there, you've done 9 months of playing around with logos and thinking, I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it, I don't know, I don't know. And then eventually you sort of tell the world, and it's out there now. And you've got these kind of, I guess, imaginary milestones as to how the business is going to go, how it could go. And I don't know, but I'm guessing from my own experience that, and then it doesn't quite go how those imaginary milestones do. How do you deal with the realization that it's not going to quite work like that?
I mean, to be honest, I always think about people like the guy that made Facebook, for instance. He made that for a student. It was like a student networking page, and obviously now it's like a massive thing. I don't think everyone kind of starts and then it just pans out beautifully. No. Otherwise, everyone would do it. But I think the thing is, you kind of learn from you know the things that don't go quite well and the things that are going better than others and that kind of thing. I'm really good with kind of like my diary, so I actually book in with myself reviews of myself as if I'm in a corporate job and my director's sitting down with me. I actually review myself and think what's worked, what hasn't worked, what do I need to do more of. And I think that's something that is a massive learning curve for me, is actually checking in with yourself, because when you do have your own business, you don't actually have someone saying to you, well, what should we do more of, what's next.
And how have you found the balancing of the million things that you have to do when you've got your own business? Like, you know, I don't know if you already sort of took it into account, but like, you know, you're going to need to keep accounts, you're going to need VAT returns, you're going to need personal tax returns, you're going to need to plan your own content, other people's content. There's got to be time for prospecting, but there's got to be time for looking after customers and all of these different things. Like, how are you juggling all of that?
At first, not very well. At first, it was like spinning plates, and some of them were falling off. Now I'm quite good at, like, every day that I'm focused on my business, I write down my to-do list. I make sure I tick things off. If I haven't done it, I put it on the next to-do list. I prioritise things. And also now kind of like looking at systems a bit more, because there's so much with AI and there's just so much that's out there to help you. So yeah, a lot of systems are being implemented right now.
I mean, the to-do list sounds like it sounds such a simple thing, but as you say, in the beginning, you just sort of go head on into it, and very quickly you could find yourself just with too many things to do. You just forget everything, wouldn't you? So that sounds like a good way of keeping track of it. So going back to the social media side of things, you know, when I started my journey into social media, not business, you know, when I started my business, social media wasn't really, you know, Facebook had been started, but it wasn't really a main thing. So I probably started to get involved in social media more around about 2014, 15. Facebook was the main thing. Now, when I look at social media, it's one of the things that I struggle with, which maybe, you know, you can shine some light on, is it feels very much like, in fact, I think it was probably always this way. I just didn't pay that much attention to it because the numbers were smaller than they are now. But it feels very much like people are looking for views and likes, and that's enough. Like, that's it. That's their barometer. I've always looked at it differently to that. Like, I've always actually wanted something to happen. Like, either want some data. or I want someone to book a ticket to an event or make an inquiry about the business, or, maybe that's too much to ask, but that was the things that I was looking for. And I didn't really care if I had one like on the post.
Yeah.
It was fine for me. I didn't mind. But now it seems to have shifted more to someone would actually rather have, I don't know, 20,000 views on TikTok and 200 likes on a post.
Yeah.
Even if it's untangible and there's nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Like, where do you sit on that?
Yeah, so that's where my onboarding process massively comes into place, because I've had customers and they say, right, what I want you to do is make me go viral.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but we have to strip that back and we have to look at that, because what does that actually look like for you? Great, you've gone viral, but then the next week something else goes viral.
Yeah.
But you haven't got anything from that. So a lot of it for me is making sure that you're converting people into customers, is actually converting your current customers that have probably followed you since the start of your business journey, actually getting them to become customers. And it's looking at kind of your analytics and seeing what they're clicking on, what they're liking, rather than just trying to make something that goes a bit viral.
Yeah, I think, my daughter was the other day, she said to me, "Oh, Dad, so-and-so who goes to my school?" I was like, yeah, she had a post that had 2.5 million views. And I was like, okay. Like she was going to tell me something else.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah. I was like, and she was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, great. Like,
yeah.
So I guess when people want their post to go viral, like, is that just pure vanity? I mean, like, when I listen to people say that these influencers have managed to do this and they've living these lives, I just sort of think, bollocks, bullshit.
Yeah.
No, they're not. I don't know a single person I know some people that are influencers, and I don't know a single person that's like making a incredible life out of it.
Yeah.
So do you think that people have lost track somewhere of like what the whole point of it is? Is it now just for vanity? Or?
Yeah. I think there's a fine line, as kind of what you say is, at first people are like, I know I have to be on social media, but I don't know why. And then there's the people that are like, I'm on social media now, right, how do I get 1 million followers? How do I make my videos go viral? And I think then there's also the people that are the salesy people in between, where they don't know the direction either, because they're hard selling on social media, and people just want to go on Instagram and scroll and see things. So they don't want to be hard sold, and that's where kind of you have to kind of explain to customers that there's strategies in place to kind of hit all of those goals.
Yeah, start them off and then retarget them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think that with social media, that the people, the flip side of what I was just saying, that do any of your customers expect you to be able to tell them to the pound what they got from social media? Do you think that people sometimes can get a bit too confused with the fact that, like, I know from my own point of view that I spent many, many years building systems and looking at ways of being able to find that out. Right?
Yeah.
Where did this lead come from?
Yeah.
Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever it might have been organically. And after like a decade of doing that, I've realised you'll never know.
Yeah.
Because even if I could tell you that lead came from Google, we don't know that they didn't watch the Instagram post and go to Google.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just, it's kind of do you think that your clients would be happy, for instance, if you said to them, I'll never be able to tell you what you get out of it?
Probably not, no. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. Like, you can give an idea on it. So I can see from the analytics if they've had an increase of people going onto their booking link, for instance, and they know themselves if they're busy in times when they're usually quiet. So they get kind of a good idea from that. But yeah, being able to kind of say, I've earned you this much money is not something that we can do. It's something I'd love to be able to do. But as you say, it's the same sort of thing. Like going on to Google, my mum and dad have a business, and my dad was like, oh, we've got so many increased people going through our Google ad. And he found out that my mum, who works for the business, when she was trying to get the phone number up or the email address, she was clicking on that link.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the first, when you Google and you're looking for it, that's what you're going to click on. So it is hard to track.
Like lots of estate agents, that's the sector that we're both familiar with, want to come up and get lots of traffic for estate agents in and then their town. And I'm always saying to people, that's just suppliers.
Yeah.
Like, it's only suppliers that are typing that in.
Yeah.
No member of the public is typing that.
No, that's so true, yeah.
And then we're getting loads of calls from suppliers.
Yeah.
It's like, you're paying for it as well. It's just, it's crazy, isn't it? Because I can almost imagine that from your point of view, a customer could end up saying to you, well, yes, we have had lots of traffic of people that have come to our shopping page or booking page or whatever it might be, but we haven't actually had any customers.
Yeah.
And somehow try and put that on your...
Yeah.
Whereas, it's like, what's that got to do with me?
Yeah.
I showed them something, they liked it, they came to your website and they decided not to buy it. It's irrelevant to you, isn't it? But I think, as I say, I think a lot of people have lost track of it one way or the other. One, I'm not looking for any results out of this. I just want my post to have lots of views. Yeah. And then two, I want you to actually make sales for me and give me a business that people were looking for.
Yeah.
You figure it all out.
Yeah. Exactly. I think the thing people forget about is also brand awareness. So it's the same sort of thing as like estate agents, for instance. You see the office, you see the board, you see the car. It's that kind of thing. But it's making sure that people are kind of following your page so that they're constantly seeing you and you're being kind of drip fed information. So then when you're, for example, the beauty client, when you get paid and you think, do you know what, I really want my brows done, and you think, oh, I remember that really good post that I saw, you go back, but that's something that you can't track. But
absolutely, the familiarity, right? No one wants to go, like you say, and have their haircut or their nails done, or at a place they've never heard of, never been recommended to or anything, and seeing something regularly on social media ends up acting like a recommendation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You start to think to yourself, like, I would feel pretty comfortable going there, getting food or getting a beauty treatment or whatever it might be. Okay, so what does the perfect kind of customer look like then in your business? I don't know, like the difference between, say, now that you've been doing it for a while, you must have some customers whereby you think, I got them either in the early days when I really needed people, or I've got them recently, but they're a bit of a nightmare, versus someone that's how it should be.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, with all your when you first onboard customers, the first month or so feels like you're almost having an argument, because you're kind of sending stuff for their approval and they're not going to straight away approve it because you haven't got to know them yet, they haven't got to know me, and it's kind of working it out, and that does take a month or so. But my perfect client is when you've got past that bit, you know exactly what they like, you know exactly the sort of kind of songs that they want to their reels, you know exactly what they want from social media. And then when I kind of send things over, I send it over for approval and they just send me a thumbs up. And I'm like, perfect.
And when you look back at the months that you spent thinking about starting your business, do you think you should have done it quicker, or do you think you should have taken longer, or do you think you took the right amount of time? Like, how do you look at that now?
I think you always want to be perfectly prepared to launch a business, and I don't think you ever can be perfectly prepared. I think you just have to start it. Like, I'm grateful that in the 9 months leading up to it, I did a lot of research, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, I did extra social media courses, and really played around with different ideas of how I was going to run it. And I'm grateful that I had that time to do that. But I also do think I probably could have started it earlier, because you're never as prepared as you want to be with starting a business. Because I think straight away I launched and someone said, right, great, I'll take you on. Can you send me your contract? And I'm like, yeah, my contract. Yeah. I'm like there editing.
When I was editing that logo, that's what I should have done.
Yeah, I was like, I've got that main thing.
It's so true. Like, as I say, you just figure it. The way I explained it to somebody the other day was like, when we started our business, we sort of jumped out of a plane at about 50,000 feet and then tried in some way to build some sort of parachute on the way down.
Yeah, that's it. That is so true.
Okay, so how do you go about, or how did you go about going from, you know what, I'm going to launch this business to actually getting customers?
I mean, it happened within 24 hours, which is scary, but also a really good place to be in.
That was like incoming from you doing stuff on social media, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So one Sunday morning, I just decided to start. So I made my website, I made my business cards, and I launched on social media. And I think for me, starting on social media was the start of it for me, because that was when I was saying to all my friends and family and everyone in the world, I've started my business. And that was, the kind of main starting point for me. But from that, because people had known me and people had known that I'd done social media for a estate agency, straight away I had people going, oh, I need social media. And it just kind of went from there, to be honest. It was just crazy how busy it was straight away. I was surprised.
And is that still the main source of getting new customers, or have you started any other specific kind of, I don't know, have you got any time that you block out in the diary to try and get new customers, or how does getting new customers work for you now?
To be honest, most of my customers are organically. They've come through social media, and that's not even me kind of like cold messaging. And that's just from organically. They've seen my posts, they follow me, they go on a customer journey with me. Of course, I obviously implement like a structure to it. But yeah, most people have been organically. There's been some people that I've reached out to, so I've seen kind of new bars and new restaurants that they're opening. They're going to need social media, so that's like quite a nice one for me to target, because I can go on the journey with them.
And get free drink.
Get free drink. Perfect.
And how does that work? Has that worked okay, or is that a bit more difficult when you sort of cold reach out to somebody? Does it go okay, or is it a bit more like?
It's a bit more difficult, because it is that kind of cold start, and you haven't got that kind of rapport with them.
Yeah. I suppose it's similar to what we were talking about before, isn't it? About if they happen to have been following you on social media, they start feeling comfortable with you. You send a cold message, they're just like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I speak a lot about speaking on your social media. I think for the first couple of months, I was saying to my clients, yeah, you've got to speak on social media, go on your stories. And then I actually thought to myself, I don't do it myself. I was like, I actually need to do it as well. So I make a point of every week now, I'd speak on my stories. And a lot of the time, the customers have come from that. That's where they've kind of seen all the like fluffy stuff on social media. But then on the story, they're kind of getting to know me, and they're kind of, I'm speaking about the problems that they might have. So a lot of the time, a lot of people's issues with social media in businesses is time, because you don't think all the different hats you wear as a business owner, that's another hat that you've got to wear and another time that you've got to allocate. So it's just, when I speak about the time and how I can help people with that, that's a lot of people reply to me from that. So
and obviously you can create content for people. But depending on where they are in the country, they might need to create the content and get it to you.
Yeah.
If somebody's sitting there thinking to themselves, "Oh, I didn't know how to make content," like, I don't know, what would you say the basics are that they need in order to create some half decent content?
Yeah, I mean, when I first take on my clients, I always do a content shoot with them. So that's something new I've implemented in the kind of last 6 months. So I will go to them, we'll do a content shoot together. I'll show them the kind of ways that I film things, the sort of content that makes good content. We get to have a good hour or so together. So I can kind of coach them through it. And then that generally helps, so that when I make enough content for kind of a month or so, when we're a month down the line, they're sending me over things and we kind of have the same sort of style, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. For somebody that is listening to this and thinks to themselves like, I know I should do social media. I know that there's already too much content out there, and all right, Dom says that, you know, if I'm working with her or somebody like her, then they'll have a meeting with me and they'll coach me through how to make some content and stuff. But they're sitting there thinking to themselves, but I haven't really got the money to do that, or it's just not a high enough priority for me. What would you say to somebody like that?
When I take clients on, we look at that sort of stuff. So we look at my cost versus how many customers it needs to get their money back. So we look at kind of, if it takes you 5 customers and we're getting you double that, then it's going to make you more money in the long run. So I think it's just stripping it back to that. And we sit there and do calculations when I do the onboarding,
Yeah.
and we look at kind of what it's going to be able to make you. And we look at it from that point of view.
And I suppose, like, you know, the question to ask yourself, I guess, if you are sitting there thinking that, is like, well, what are you going to do then? You know, because there's not really much that you can do for less than what you would pay somebody to look after your social media.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly are you going to do in terms of letting people know that this business even exists? You know, because you can't just sit there and do nothing, can you?
Yeah.
It's almost like the minimum. This is the minimum standard that you need to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not even in business in most people's eyes. No one even knows you're here.
Yeah, and I see a lot of the time, they say on TikTok, for example, people now use TikTok as Google.
Yeah.
So even today, I've been in London, I've searched on TikTok nice coffee places to go near London Bridge because I'm going to have a look, and you get to see what it looks like inside, and you know, you get to see what kind of coffee they do and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
whereas Google, you just, you know, sometimes it depends on their websites, but you get to see the menu and maybe a picture inside. So actually you get so much more of an insight, and it's just so good for business owners to be able to put themselves and to have that platform to be able to.
So true. And is there a way of I don't know if you know this or not, but let's take that as an example. Coffee shops in London, and you've searched it on TikTok, and now you're just flicking through the different videos. If I'm posting a video myself of my coffee shop in London, how do I make sure that I'm coming up in that sort of specific search?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you could do. So there's geolocations. So that's making sure you're tracking to the right area. There's making sure you're going for the right target market. So if your coffee shop is going to be one where it's going to attract people that work from coffee shops, for instance, it's making sure you're posting at a time that suits kind of when they're going to be looking at their social media. So probably not during the day because they'll be working, hopefully. Yeah. And making sure that you're using the right CEO words to make sure that that's being pulled across correctly. There's so much you can do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question then. What would you say for your typical clients that you've met, who, you know, the boat that they're in, are the 2 or 3 like most common tips that you need to give somebody just to start with?
Just as if they were starting their social media. I think the main things is to make sure it's personable. I think if you're starting a business, you want to take people on that journey with you. You want people to come along with you. You want them to get to know you. And that's kind of the difference between having a website and, you know, having yourself on Google. Is by having yourself on social media, you're allowing people to kind of feel emotionally involved with you. They come on that emotional journey with you rather than just kind of a picture that they don't get anything from. So I think it's just about you know, keeping it personal, making sure you're being yourself, and just getting people.
It's such a great point. It's such a great point because social media is always difficult. As a poster, it's always difficult to find the balance between, you know, educational, entertaining, whatever it might be, and also the objective of making some form of sales.
Yeah.
You know, but by allowing people to just see inside what it is that you're doing, you can kind of cover all of those bases, can't you? Because as you say, if I'm just looking for coffee shops in London and the video is just you know, Jane or Mark or whoever it is making a coffee in the coffee shop, the content isn't that useful to somebody if I'm just sitting at home in my bedroom. Yeah. But it is quite useful for somebody, and it does allow me to see the coffee shop, and it does allow me to sort of think like, oh, that place looks quite nice, without them going, look at us, we make coffee. Yeah. You know, so it's such a good point to make, to like letting people inside your business is a great way of finding that balance, I think, between letting people know that we're a great estate agent, and not just standing there going like, we're a great estate
Yeah,
agent.
exactly. That's it. And with any great sales pitch, it is about rapport building for me. So again, estate agency, for instance, if you're going into evaluation, you want to be getting to know the person rather than going barging straight in there and saying, these are my fees, this is what I can do. You want to actually get to know the person and understand them. So by having a social media platform, you're actually doing that. So even though you're not hard selling to people, you're saying, look at me, this is a little bit about me, get to know me, reply to me, and I'll get to know you. And that's kind of a nice sales pitch without being a hard sales pitch.
Love it. Brilliant. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.